don't.
Or that I nag everybody, even if I haven't done anything sexual with them, right? But this is something that I guess I don't say this enough, but I try to say this a lot. A red flag is not a bad thing. And a power difference or dynamic is not a bad thing.
My God.
Oh,
that's
anyway,
crazy.
yeah. Damn, I feel like Lav's mind is pretty fucking destroyed now. I don't think she's gonna be able to pull out of that hole.
Well, she'll probably be back in like a day or two.
Yeah. Also, this is something that has triggered me the most, especially because Max and Lab. I had a higher expectation, as sad as it is. I had a higher expectation for Lav because I've heard her talk about sexual dynamics. I have no expectations for Max. But there...
Oh my gosh, listening to fucking Smith try to like talk about... God, I hate listening to people who've clearly like not done like a fair bit of like sexual negotiation, like talk about it. It is so cringe.
Yeah.
Where you're just like, you clearly have never... had these types of encounters. I don't know what to say. This is not how these
without it
work.
getting like personal, yeah. But
yeah, like when they're like talking about you like making digs and stuff, I'm like, but isn't that like known that he like negs when he flirts? Like,
yeah,
I don't.
Or that I nag everybody, even if I haven't done anything sexual with them, right? But this is something that I guess I don't say this enough, but I try to say this a lot. A red flag is not a bad thing. And a power difference or dynamic is not a bad thing.
My God.
It's just like
no.
This is a cause for concern and maybe an area for further investigation. Right?
Yes,
So,
yes. And greater responsibility. Like if there's a power dynamic and you're aware that you're at the higher point, you have to take the lead on like making sure that the other person has maximized agency and that they're like, you're being extra cautious. Like that is true, which is why like most men try to be like extra cautious about like not making women feel uncomfortable like physically around them.
Yeah.
But they should, right? Because there is that power dynamic. But power dynamics aren't bad. They just make things messy and complicated. So you have to think about it.
Well, sure. And not even necessarily, because every relationship has power dynamics. There's always some. Like the man is usually physically stronger than the woman. Sometimes the woman is less into sex as the guy. So there's like weird things. Like there's always going to be like dynamics and shit like the entire time. That's just the way that it is. But yeah, it's frustrating because like every time, and when I talked to her last night, we talked for like an hour or two, and every time she said this, I would scream at her. She would always say like, well, I just think that a lot of the relationships you have are like really problematic. I was like, what's the problem? And she'd always retreat to this, well, like, isn't it kind of weird? And I was like, yeah, it is kind of weird. I am pretty sexually active. That is pretty weird, which is, by the way, that's a great cause for concern. You'd be like, well, I'm going to dig into this a little bit more, but that in and of itself isn't a problem. Like you need more than that. You can't just like, oh, well, haven't you had sex with fans before? Like, yeah, of course I do. But it's like, is something wrong or bad happening there? There could be, and you could go investigate, go fucking message all these people and talk to them if you want. But there's not, but you can look for it. But just that in and of itself is not necessarily a bad thing, especially when they're saying that like you can't have sex with fans, you can't have sex with other streamers. You can't. It's like Jesus Christ, like what? Am I not allowed to fuck anybody? Like, or is it only normies that have like never heard of me before? Like, yeah, it's just
this
wild.
This is part of their like weird conception of like parasociality in general, where they're just like there's something transformative that occurs when a camera turns on somebody, and now suddenly you're not just a human, you're a streamer human, and you cannot engage with the normal plebs of normal humans. It's just like it's just fucking like Jesus fuck. Like even if they're a fan, like obviously again, there's greater responsibility on you. You need to be making sure that you're being extra cautious and giving them greater agency to say no. Like all of these things are true, but it's not like just because they're a fan that you like. Oh God, it's just. Like unless you're in a world where there is codified practices about certain boundaries because of like basically test and tried things. Like for example, doctors and professionals have codified practices for which power dynamics they can and cannot engage in for good reason, by the way. That's valid. Like in the normal interpersonal world, like these dynamics are not as clear or as codified, and you like basically have to do the best with what you can and hope essentially that like if you're taking risks that you're being maximally ethical as well.
Yeah. All right, bye. Remember to hit that like and subscribe, and don't forget the notification bell so that my videos show up right in your feed.